You know, the more I think about it and the more time I spend with it, I do think it's probably my favorite homage watch. Hey guys, it's Alex with Hammond Watch. I'm here today with the Islander ISL 143. I picked this up from longislandwatch.com. If you aren't familiar, I'll put a link down below. But they're an online watch retailer. Their owner, Mark, is very involved in the watch community. He has an awesome YouTube channel, and I'll have a link to that down below as well. But they started producing their own watches a few years ago, and you know, a lot of them are heavily inspired by Seiko, and typically just upgraded with some of the things that we wish older models had, like, you know, hacking and hand winding and SKXs, and everything has sapphire crystals. And what's really cool is they finally started putting out some of their own designs, and I think they have some really sharp pieces. But I was really drawn to this when I saw these watches release. Obviously, this is an homage to the second generation of Seiko Monster with just a few tweaks. But in general, I love the spec of this. I think it's priced appropriately. And to be honest, I'm just kind of smitten. The sizing is exactly what you would expect and really matches the traditional Monsters. You're looking at a 42.5 millimeter wide case. If you go diagonally and include the crown, you're looking at 47.1. Your thickness is 14.25. Although a little bit of that is the double dome sapphire crystal, which does have a nice anti-reflective coating on it. The crown, signed with the Islander logo, measures in at 7 millimeters. It's got that traditional, like, rough kind of grading to it, and it makes it incredibly easy to operate. Also, like this generation of Monster, it is guarded by this shroud. In some of the newer iterations, they'll put the crown here, but it doesn't really have any protection. This one's built very much like a tank. You're looking at a lug tip to lug tip of 47.6 millimeters. If you go lug hole to lug hole, you're looking at 43. And then when you have the bracelet and you articulate it all the way in and measure this kind of effective lug to lug, you're looking at 49 millimeters with the bracelet. You get a nice standard 20 millimeter lug width, so you're not going to have any issues if you want to swap a strap in. Those drilled lug holes make that incredibly easy. As this bracelet comes out of those lugs, it does flare out to 23 millimeters and then drops back down to 20 towards the clasp. Once you hit those 20 millimeter wide links, you'll notice that they are screw links, so sizing this was incredibly easy. I love the clasp itself. It's a fold over 2-button. You have really nice milled hardware, but they left the clasp as pressed. This really helps to keep the thinner profile, and overall, in my opinion, makes the watch a lot more comfortable. Only 3 micro adjust. If I was being really nitpicky, I may, have wanted a 4th or a 5th. But that said, I love how compact this clasp is, and I think the bracelet overall really is a nice highlight of the watch. The screw down case back of this watch is also really cool. Mark did a contest and had a bunch of people submitting different designs. Ultimately, this is what they decided to go with, and I think it looks phenomenal. So just a nice lighthouse, a wave, and then the Islander logo. You get basic specifications listed around the outer rim. You'll see sapphire, 200 meters, and then the branding for Islander, of course. The movement powering this watch is Seiko's NH35. It's an automatic movement with hacking and hand winding. You get a 41-hour power reserve, and your accuracy should be between -20 and +40. That said, I usually see watches from Seiko come in at much closer to a range of like plus or minus 10 seconds. This particular watch is running at +7, so I'm very happy with its performance overall. The bezel, one of the most kind of distinguishing features of this watch. I love the full stainless design. I feel like before everything was ceramic, this was one of the better ways to get away from having paint scratches in your aluminum bezel, and for me it will always just kind of feel like a tough, more rugged feature. All of the markers and indicators you see are kind of milled out with black paint inside. It is a 120 click unidirectional bezel. Feels phenomenal, maybe a touch stiff, but in my experience that's the way most of my monsters have felt. I will say, if you've never had one, this protective shroud that makes it look so kind of cool and tough does grab your finger from time to time when you're operating the bezel. It doesn't hurt, but it's just something to note. You know, every now and then you're just going to get caught there. I really love the color that they went with here, this robin's egg blue. For me, it's not that it's a feminine color, it's just more soft and playful, and with a more tough industrial design, I just think it balances well. On the original monsters, you would have a day and date at 3 o'clock. Mark decided to move to just having the date at 6. I think it provides phenomenal balance and kind of simplifies the overall aesthetic. And for me, it just really works. You know, also, being a color that wasn't originally offered, it makes this watch feel a little bit less like a ripoff and maybe a little bit more like a tasteful mod. You know, like it's not quite the same thing. It's not trying to be the orange monster that I think of when I think monster. Instead, it's just kind of its own thing. Obviously, there's still a ton of monster here. I've struggled in my collection to keep a 309. I love them so much. I think it's one of Seiko's best divers all time. But even if I get one for a great deal and think I'm going to beat on it, I usually baby it and then flip it and take the profits and end up in something else. So I think these provide a great opportunity to pick one up and leave it in the collection and just really enjoy it and beat on it and just not having to worry about it. Here we are in my 7.5 to 7 3/4 inch wrist. You know, as you can see, it doesn't feel or look oversized. It doesn't feel like it's almost 15 millimeters tall. In general, it's an extremely comfortable watch, and I love the overall aesthetic. The lume on this watch is killer. I don't know that I would say it's right on par with Seiko's Lumibright, but man, it's pretty close. Nice bright green vivid glow. I love that they did the Islander logo, and I think the green with the blue has a really nice kind of funky contrast to it. So no complaints from me. This will definitely last throughout the night. If you guys enjoyed this closer look at the ISL 143, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Just went through a few medical things that threw me off track, but in general, I'm getting back on pace to do at least one video a week. If you're interested in buying this watch, head over to longislandwatch.com. They're still in stock at $299, which I think is a great price. If the blue doesn't do it for you, they also have a salmon mother of pearl dial version that I think looks really killer as well. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.